We play and call it work.
Welcome, MiniWarGamers. Josh here to bring you this week's Sit and Talk. You guys have sent some questions in. I'm going to do my best to answer them. Now, keep in mind, next week it's going to be Quirk doing the Sit and Talk. So any questions you have for Quirk, leave them in the comments below on this video. Make sure you put Quirk at the beginning or something like that. Make sure he is able to see that you are calling him out and got questions for him. So let's jump right into it. Let's get into my questions here. First one from Deity. Josh, if you were a Tyranid, what color would your carapace be? I don't know, kind of pinky, I guess. I'm assuming if I could pick whatever color. I was always a big fan of the Tyranids painted up with the yellow and black schemes, kind of the Bumblebee look almost. So if I was a Tyranid and I had a choice of what color my carapace would be, I think that would probably be my go-to because, like I said, it was always kind of a cool look. I've seen them painted a ton of different ways, but the black and yellow stripes are one of my favorites. Next, we have a question from Frickin' Peanuts. Okay, I like that name. Okay, so Frickin' Peanuts says, Josh, have you ever considered playing Chaos 40k Night Lords perhaps? I love Dave, but sometimes his style can be a little much. You're probably super busy and can't. Just wondering if it ever crossed your mind. P.S. The way you roll dice drives me crazy. P.P.S. You're amazing. Keep up the great work. First and foremost, thank you very much for the compliment. I am glad you are enjoying the work. Yeah, my dice rolls seem to drive everybody crazy. The overhand and drop roll, for various different reasons. I'm probably, out of everybody in the office, I'm the one that destroys the most terrain when I play. For whatever reason, I don't have much spatial awareness when I'm rolling dice and holding a camera. So that's the majority of the reason why I roll that way, but yeah, it drives people crazy. As far as 40k Chaos, I have actually played a couple games that are up right now. With my Night Lords in 40k. I try to avoid it too much because I want to keep them somewhat fresh for the 30k content as well. But yeah, I like the Night Lords in 40k. There's a couple reasons, yeah, beyond the fact that I play them in 30k as well, that you might not see them a ton. Reason number one is I'm kind of a Night Lord snob almost. I don't like taking any of the demonic stuff. I don't like taking Marks of Chaos if I can avoid it, unless I have like a fluffy reason for it. So it's tough to make a really good just vanilla Chaos Marine list that's fun to play. But any chance that I have a guest that comes in that wants to play kind of a goofy, fun, fluffy game, yeah, I try to break the Night Lords out because they're kind of cool. So check it out. There should be a couple bat reps. Off the top of my head, I know I faced, and I apologize, guys, the guests' names I cannot remember because it was a while ago, but I did play one guest who used the Studio Thousand Suns. We played a cool little scenario from the Scouring. That was tons of fun. And then I also played against a guest who brought his, he was using Harlequins, and they faced off against my Night Lords. So yeah, I'd like to bring them a little bit more, but I'm kind of a fluffy, don't want to be a slave to darkness, don't want to use a bunch of demonic stuff. So it's tougher to make a really cool list. But yeah, I do want to expand out that army a little bit, so there's some more usable stuff in 40k. Next up, we have Cassadar the Spy Master. Josh, if you were to make a kill team, what faction would you play and why? I think Imperial Fists are kind of stupidly good in that format since you have so few models. Yeah, I think for me, for kill team, it's the chance to go ahead and do something that I might not want a full army of. So we're actually going to be doing some kill team games coming up using the Heralds of Ruin rules. I'll be playing my Night Lords. Because I love me some Night Lords, and it makes sense to do them in that smaller kind of game. There were a Legion that always had troubles working together as one big cohesive unit. So them being a lot more individual kind of fits the fluff for me. Imperial Fists. We're already going to have one guy playing Imperial Fists. So otherwise, yeah, I would like to use the Fists because, again, they're a really super cool chapter. Yeah, there's a couple other ones. I really wanted to do, because I looked into a couple different options. I had thought about using, I think it's Victoria Miniatures. I can't remember what they call them. The Tannenberg Fusiliers or something like that. But they do basically alternate models for the Mordians. So playing Astra Militarum, or even, I guess, Militarium Tempestus, and using those models to represent it would have been cool. But it wasn't in the books for me to do at this time. Or I'd also thought about doing some cool little conversions and doing the Adeptus Arbites. I don't know actually how to say that properly, but the Judge Dredd looking guys. Because that would be a really cool little force to have that I wouldn't want to build a whole army of. But again, wasn't in the cards. The bits that I wanted weren't going to be in stock, and I wouldn't be able to get them in time. So yeah, I'll be playing the Night Lords because it'll be kind of fun, fluffy, cool. I'm looking forward to that. Next we have Case 77. I think that's how you say your name. Apologies if I'm saying it wrong. At Josh, I've not long caught up with the Mordheim campaign. Are we ever going to see another clash between yours and Luca's warbands? We're not currently filming any Mordheims. I'd love the chance to play, even though, I mean, if I remember correctly, last thing that happened to Luca was he lost his vampire, and the tower guard had gotten pretty good. So I don't know. I don't know how balanced of a game it would be. But yeah, I'd love to get into some more Mordheim. It's just not in the books. Don't really have the time for it in the studio right now. But I love that game. So maybe, hopefully, who knows? I'd love to play some more Mordheim. I was actually, before we got back to filming, because Age of Sigmar kind of took over that spot a little bit when we got back to filming a lot of AOS. I was working on some Lizardmen to be my warband, my next one, because I was getting a little bit tired of the shooting game. And the Reichlanders were just pretty good. The Bogenhofen Free Company. So yeah, I was going to play Lizardmen. So who knows? No promises, but it's a sweet game that a lot of people in the studio here really, really love. So hopefully we'll see some more of it in the next little while. Alright, watching the General's Handbook review, you and Steve are critical over the unit sizes for the Path to Glory lists and talked about changing the sizes to balance it. For example, zombies versus liberators. Could we see some Age of Sigmar Who Would Win videos to test out varying unit sizes to find that balance? Love all your content and keep it up. Yeah, thanks for the kind words. As far as filming the Who Would Wins, I guess the big issue with it is that if we were to do it, because we did try some Who Would Wins to kind of see what the community might think of them a little while back. We don't have the space right now to be able to do the Who Would Win stuff along with all the regular filming of the games. So I'm not saying that we won't do the Who Would Wins for different unit sizes or things like that, but it's not in the cards because, again, the focus is wanting to bring some really solid regular Age of Sigmar content right now. So no promises either way. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing around with it a little bit and trying to find some nice balance of, how many models should be in each of those units. Because I think if we were to do it, we would want to use the match play rules, and I think the Path to Glory is under the narrative or open rules. So, I mean, I guess you could summon more stuff if you're playing as the undead faction, but yeah, things just weren't making a whole lot of sense, so I could see us tweaking those rules to make it fit next time we do a Path to Glory for Age of Sigmar. Yeah, that's about all I got on that one. Pardon me, guys, I'm a little scratchy in the throat, so I'm going to grab a drink. That's better. Alright, next up we got Decaying Shark. How's it going? For my Night Lord's army. I love Night Lord's armies. I'm having trouble with the lightning. Any tips to get good lightning? I have a very specific technique for lightning. once you've got all your brushes, your paints, everything else set aside, you need to go find yourself an Icelandic guy who loves Night Lords. And once you find an Icelandic guy who loves Night Lords, he also has to love Burger King. And then you bribe him with a ride to Burger King repeatedly until you get all the lightning on your army. Yeah. Honestly, the lightning on all my stuff is that's done by Lee, who is fantastic at it already. And he's a huge Night Lords fan, so yeah, I kind of let him run with that, and he's done some amazing, crazy good work. But I tell you what, shoot me an email. I'll talk to Lee, and I'll see if I can get his exact formula for doing lightning for the Night Lords. I know Chris has got some stuff up on the quick tips as well that's worth checking out, but if you want the specific recipe for my models, shoot me an email, and I will ask Lee for you. Next up, Orpheus. Josh, can you give Steve a hug? Not a quick embrace, but a full-on "we brothers now" hug. No. Steve hates hugs more than anything else. I mean, I like to bug him about his birthday and all that, but yeah, he's not a touchy guy. I'm pretty sure he'd knock me out if I tried to hug him. So, no, I'm not gonna go get myself knocked out. I'm not gonna try to give him a hug. You are welcome to, though, if you show up. Try to give him a hug. I ain't doing it, though. Also, what do you think is the best bodyguard automata for Anarchus Scoria? That's the Dark Mechanicum character for 30k if you're not familiar. Do you think an Ordo Reductor list with Scoria, Automata, and Tech Thrall spam backed up by artillery can compete in casual 40k? I don't know. Out of all the different 30k, because 30k's costed a lot differently, I think that Mechanicum is the one faction that probably could play semi-competitive at least in 40k. Now, my understanding is the next Imperial Armor book that comes out will give you rules to use your Mechanicum stuff in 40k, but don't. I remember hearing rumors, so don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure it will. I think that's still, I don't know if that'd be my go-to list, because I mean, I haven't played a lot of Ordo Reductor. You get some really cool artillery. It could be, because I mean, Steve can do some terrible stuff with his Iron Warriors, and that's nothing overly specialized for artillery, so that might be able to, but I think my go-to is still my Legio Cybernetica, and that could probably do okay in a casual 40k setting, because I find that to be really, really powerful. Now, as far as the bodyguard, I don't know. I wouldn't want to go too heavy. I mean, that's one model that wants to be in close combat, so I'd probably go for a Domitar or two, something that can soak fire. Maybe the Castellax, but I mean, the Domitar is a little bit scarier in close combat. So I'd say, yeah, maybe like a pair of Domitars. That would be a terrifying unit, but that'd be a lot of points on the board too, so it's trying to strike that nice balance. I think it would depend on how many points you're playing. Now, Scoria, I don't know if I would use that model in anything less than like 2,500 points, or maybe even like a 3,000 point list, because yeah, you want to have a proper unit. Part of the reason that my Legio Cybernetica does so well is I don't need a really offensive close combat anything. I've got enough that I can just sit back and shoot, so I can tool my character up to be a support character and not have to really worry about it. So yeah, cool model. Doesn't fit my playstyle currently, but yeah, Lee and I have been in talks about how to convert one of those up, but I'm waiting to see if there's any word if they're going to do an official model, but I haven't heard anything yet. All right, let's jump down to the next question. Adam Serpin? Josh, what is your favorite beer? Whatever I have in my hand at any given moment. Yeah, my favorite beer. There's a couple that I like. It kind of depends. Just to drink, I'm a big fan of Rickard's Red is my go-to that I think most people that drink beer would be familiar with. Rickard's Red's an okay beer. It's nothing special, but it's all right. If I get my pick, I'm usually a bigger fan of, what is it? Mill Street Brewery does one called Tank House Ale. Tank House is kind of similar to Red, similar enough. Really flavorful, so I'm a big fan of that. But then again, I like my Guinness. I also drink a lot of cider. I don't know. They make fun of me here for my love of cider, but I think it's awesome. So like a Summersby or something like that. Tastes like apple juice. I like apple juice, so they'll probably be some of my favorite beer choices anyways. Also, what would your Carcharodon, I don't even know how to say it. I keep going back and forth on that. Because I'll look it up, and then I completely forget which one is the right way to say it. What would your face tattoos look like? Yeah, because they've got the really cool, I think it's the Peloponnesian style face tattoos. I don't know what different options there are. I'm a big dude with a bald head, though, so I guess that could be given a whole lot of options. I don't really know. I got to look into it now because there's all sorts of different patterns and all that stuff. But I imagine if I had to pick, you know what? Let's say it's going to be the half of the head, and the other half would be left bare. I don't know why. Man, I think that would look the coolest. We'll get Chris to Photoshop something or something maybe. Next we have Prometeori. I'm doing terrible with names today, guys. I'm sorry. Thanks so much for leaving comments, but I'm just butchering people's names. All right. Let's see what he's got to say. Hi, Josh. I want to use my first comment ever on the Vault to thank you for the great content you are making, and especially your kind attitude. Thank you. That's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said. Welcome to the Vault. I hope you're... Wow, it sounds like you're enjoying it. Awesome. Okay. So, also, I would like to suggest you make a video series of how you are building your 30k/40k Imperial Fists, and perhaps share the fluff or backstory of your army if you have thought of any. We talked about that. Yeah, you know what? Maybe... Okay, there's no promises or anything like that because it's a pretty tight filming schedule. But if I get the chance, maybe I'll try to come up with something. I'll think this over and I'll see if I can come up with something because I'm pretty excited about the progression of this. Imperial Fists have always been kind of a favorite of mine. Now, specific fluff or backstory, I don't really have a whole lot yet. But it's easy enough to fit in anything with the Imperial Fists. I've been a big fan of Sigismund as a character, so I'm probably going to lean a little bit more towards the Templars. And yeah, right now I'm trying to figure out the best way to build the army that'll work in both 30k and 40k without having to spend a ton of money on stuff. Because this one, yeah, this isn't going to be a studio army, this is going to be another personal army. So the same with the Night Lords, that's not something that the studio owns, so that means that I purchase all the models myself and I paint them on my own time and get them done on my own time. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. It's going to be a cool army. Now, you've seen me play Imperial Fists against Matthew for the Genestealer Codex review. That is not my stuff. That is everything you saw, actually, that's the studio Imperial Fist army. It's this tiny little army that has got some cool stuff in it but needs expanded. Mine's entirely separate from all that stuff, so I don't get to take any of the credit for that sweet-looking army. Yeah, let's see if I can do some progression stuff, though. That could be fun. Also, have you ever been to Spain? Keep up the good work. No, I've never been to Spain. I haven't been that many places out of country. Like, obviously, I've been down to the U.S. a bunch, but nowhere, like, fun or exciting or far away. Just, you know, Buffalo is, I think, the farthest I've been down there. And then been to Cuba, been to the Dominican Republic, and that's about it. I'm not very well traveled, but Spain seems like a beautiful country that I'd love to get to when the time is right. But I mean, you know, I get some spare time, I'm going to actually go enjoy myself there. Alright. Next up, Decaying Shark. Any pointers for someone getting into 30k Night Lords? I think the big thing is, I mean, Betrayal at Kelth is obviously your go-to starter. The Night Lords, I don't know, they're an army that I'd say just collect what you want to collect. Collect what you want to paint, what you want to own, and then figure out the army from there. You know, don't worry about, you know, I'm going to build a list and then buy the stuff. I'd say just get a lot of those super cool models and have fun doing a lot of conversions. And it's an army that you can really run with because they never properly fell to chaos as a whole like a lot of the other legions did, and they were already pretty pretty much what they are in 40K right now, or what they became after the Heresy. They were already that. So you can go all out with a lot of really cool over-the-top conversions and some cool-looking models, because, like I said, they didn't really change much from pre-Heresy to post-Heresy. The different rites of war, I find with the new Red Book that came out, veterans are better than Terror Squads. Terror Squads were always kind of meh. They were good, but they weren't great. And now I find the veterans to be so much better, so don't do like I did and start off with, 3 squads of Terror Marines as being your only troop choice. I'd say build a list that would work for just a general non-rite of war, and then, get the extra stuff later on to get to a rite of war. All right, part 2 of the question. Which Primarch has the most tragic backstory? Ooh, that's tough. There's a lot that have a lot of really good backstories. Now, keep in mind, as the new Horus Heresy novels come out, they've changed some stuff a little bit here and there from some of the older fluff, so pardon me if, I get some of the old and new stuff confused, or, I don't realize, but most tragic I'd say probably Kurz is one of the most tragic backstories. So Conrad Kurz, out of all the different Primarchs, because if you read the origin stories of all of them grew up with some sort of a authority figure, father figure, if you will, except for Kurz. Kurz was the only one that didn't have kind of a mentor as he grew up. So, that in and of itself is a little bit different, and if you look at his story arc, it definitely impacts everything that's happened with him. So yeah, Kurz ended up on a planet, obviously, that was just, rife with crime, and as he grew up, he wanted to try to rid the crime as much as he could. And instead of other Primarchs doing it, in some more constructive ways, he did it by becoming kind of the monster that the planet needed him to be. So he ruled through fear, and he was one of the Primarchs, too, that did have at least some limited capability of seeing into the future. So everything that he did, he kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. So when the Emperor showed up and, brought him into the Imperium, and he turned his legion into this weapon of fear, you look at it, that was all technically sanctioned by the Emperor. Even though it was kind of, kept a little bit under wraps, they're supposed to be scary, but the exact methods, they weren't super open about them. They were just this terrifying, terrifying legion. And so, yeah, Kurz turned his legion into this terrible thing that ended up, when it came out, some of the terrible atrocities that they did, when they were called back to Terra to answer for it, you could only assume that Kurz knew that was going to happen. Kurz knew that by listening to the Emperor and doing what the Emperor wanted, he'd turn his legion into these, basically these terrible, terrible people, and that eventually the Emperor would kind of turn his back to them. So, but he still did his best to, do the Emperor's wishes and, be what the Emperor wanted him to be. So, there's some tragedy in that even though I think he knew he was going to be somewhat betrayed by the Imperium, he stuck with it, and he did what they needed him to do. So yeah, there's a certain level of tragedy to that, and I think with him too, he's got the split personality. So you got Conrad Kurz, which is a somewhat noble side, and then you've got the Night Haunter, who's kind of a little bit more sadistic, crazy side. And you see Kurz eventually fall more and more into madness, and the Night Haunter take over more. So yeah, I think Kurz probably, because he was the most fundamentally broken of the Primarchs from the get-go, and the whole time he just tried to do his best, even though, he probably knew what was going to happen to him, and he willingly kind of sacrificed himself for that. So, yeah, I'd say he's got one of the more tragic backstories of the whole bunch. Not saying that, I don't necessarily sympathize with all the terrible things that he did, but the sense of, putting himself out there and doing what needed to get done, even though he knew that not only would he not get thanks for it, he'd eventually get punished for it. I can see the tragedy in that. All right, next up, we got Rumen. Hey, Josh, did you paint your Kurz model, or did any of the guys chip in? I'll answer that one nice and quick. That was Lee. I got the model in, And my painting, out of everybody that works here, is probably the most subpar. I'm not a good painter. I need a lot more practice, but I need practice on stuff that I'm not going to use on camera, so I need to be a little bit smarter about how I go about purchasing things. So yeah, I got the model in. Like I said, Lee is a huge fan of the Night Lords. Originally, when everybody was picking their Legion before I was even working here, they had invited, Steve and the guys invited me to pick a Legion and, build a Legion as they build theirs for the studio. And I picked Night Lords, and Lee said that if I hadn't picked them, he would have for sure. So I got the Kurz model in. He thought it was awesome. He thought it was super cool. And I had given it to him, I think, for assembly, because I know the claws and a couple other parts of it are a little bit finicky. And so I came in the one day, and he's like, okay, yeah, no, I worked on it. I'm like, okay, cool. Did you get it, like, base coated or something? And he's like, no. And he brought it upstairs, and he had just finished painting it. I guess he just stayed up in 4 or 5 hours or whatever it takes him to paint something that looks that good. He did Kurz up for me, so super, super cool surprise. Gorgeous looking model. Lee did a bang up job. So yeah, that was all Lee. All the credit goes to Lee. I'd probably be getting one soon. Not playing any 30K yet, but it's just too cool not to get. Yeah, I agree. I love 30K. I love the setting, and I love the current. Game balance. There's some really powerful stuff you can do, but none of it feels as the divide in power between the powerful and the weak stuff in 30K. I find is not as big as the divide in 40K. So yeah, super, super fun game. Need to finish the other 5,000 points first, including those sweet bikers I sent you. Now I know who you are. Yeah, send me a picture of some super sweet, it was Dark Angels bikes converted up to be Night Lords guys, and oh my god, they're gorgeous. Put that picture up in the forums if you haven't already, because that's some sweet, sweet looking models. You guys rock, and we all love you. Yeah, thanks for the support. It goes a long way. Cheers. P.S. The Blood Bowl dance, the Blood Bowl sumo dance was top notch. Yeah, I'm not much of a dancer at all, so when they said that we got to do the touchdown dances, I took that as touchdown celebrations. So the sumo was fun. That should be coming up in, ooh, what game was that? It's either when I was playing Chris or when I was playing Steve. I think it was when I was playing against Steve. So yeah, watch for that. You're going to see the sumo. I got time for, should have time for about one more question, then we're going to jump in the vault to do the rest of these. So Carlos Danger, super cool name. Beverly's friend and colleague, Josh. Oh, Beverly, we love you. Why do you use a mic when you introduce your videos? Because I got a big beard, and usually the lapel mics, if you're wearing a t-shirt, you got to clip them on here, or if you got the button down, you can kind of clip them on in the shirt. But the problem is my beard touches it and kind of scratches it. I don't know if it'll do it as much with this mic, so okay, here's fair warning. If you have headsets on right now, turn the volume down. This is going to be a terrible noise. But if I wear a lapel mic, it does something that sounds like this. Okay, ready? There's your warning. Turn it down. I don't know if you can hear kind of scratchy noise. It just sounds like a million insects when my beard scratches up against the lapel mic. So it's just this terrible, terrible noise that you want to avoid. So that's why I use the microphone, because that way my beard isn't eating the lapel mic. I know you're working on your Imperial Fist army. Can't wait to see it. Neither can I. I'm super excited. What did you start collecting to build a base list? How would you recommend building a fairly fun, fluffy Imperial Fist list that's still fairly good? Okay, so what I did is, I think the basis of the list is 2 of the Betrayal at Kelth boxes that I'd highly recommend going out and getting if you haven't got them yet. Because it primarily was going to be just a 30K army, and I made the decision that, I want to use it in 40K as well. So the basis is still a couple of Betrayal at Kelth lists. Now for 40K, I haven't played 40K Space Marines regularly for like a year, so I don't really know if I'm the best to give you advice on how to build a list. I've built a rough 40K list around, let's see if I remember what my list was, because I wanted a 1750 list that wasn't terribly competitive but still would be decent to play in a semi-competitive game if a guest brought in something decent. So I think it was the Sternhammer detachment, and I was using Battle Dummy Company Battle Demi Company, Skyhammer Annihilation, and I think it was 2 units of Devastators as auxiliary choices. But yeah, if you want a fun, fluffy Imperial Fist list, good amount of heavy weapons. I mean, there's still a Codex chapter, but they kind of lean towards certain other things. So they like their heavy weapons, as well as bolter drill. I mean, they are amazingly good with the bolters, so lots of bodies on the table would be the way that I play them. Because this is just this stubborn line of yellow dudes that, you know, we're not going to go anywhere, and we exemplify the Codex in certain ways. So yeah, lots of, you know, if you can get them in, lots of Devastators and lots of Marines with various bolt weapons, whether it's, you know, bolters or heavy bolters or whatever else. That gets you to be kind of a fun, fluffy list. But hopefully you'll see my army kind of progress as I build a couple different styles of lists and playing both 30k and 40k. But yeah, you know, I'd recommend just trying some different stuff out. But it's the fundamentals. Don't go getting too fancy. You know, lots of tactical squads, lots of bolters, lots of boots on the ground. That's how I want to play my Imperial Fists. Not a ton of armor, not a ton of, you know, flyers or whatever else. I want just as many bodies as I can get. So that wraps up the first portion of the sit and talk. So if you want to watch the rest of the sit and talk, click on the link below. It'll take you to the vault. If you're not a vault member, go ahead, sign up anyways. You can click on the link. It'll give you a 7-day free trial. You can check out the rest of this video as well as everything else in the vault. Everything we do in pairs, so that's twice as many bat reps, as well as you get Chris and Janine's painting tips and tricks and some other fun stuff. So yeah, click on the link below. Thank you so much for everybody that has left comments. Keep in mind, next week is going to be Quirk answering comments. So in this video, any comments you leave for Quirk, he'll answer them next week. So make sure you put Quirk or Beverly or whatever else to get his attention so he knows that you're asking him a question. Other than that, guys, thanks for tuning in, and happy wargaming.